It's the first full week of fall camp for the UNC football team. There's a lot of questions to be answered. Who replaces Sam Howell? How will the offensive line perform? What about the defense under the return of Chizik? Well, thankfully, former UNC offensive lineman Brian Chacos is here to help us sort through it all.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Monday, August 1st, 2022. It is my 13th wedding anniversary. Margaret Ann, I love you so dearly, Tex. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily UNC show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please don't forget that the show is free and available anywhere you get podcasts, so go ahead, you can subscribe right now. For those of you watching, please also smash the like button. We've got this interview coming up today with Brian Chacos. We're going to talk about this upcoming Carolina football season, his time playing at Carolina, and what he does now working for the Rams Club. Check it out. What a joy to be joined today by Brian Chacos here on the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, former football player at Carolina, and now still hanging around Chapel Hill working for the Rams Club. So we got all sorts of great stuff to talk about today, but we're going to start by talking about this year's football team. And what perfect timing, because practice just started last Friday. It's Monday. We're getting into the fourth practice today. And so, Brian, just right out of the gate, I think the biggest question on everyone's minds is how on earth does Mack Brown go about replacing Sam Howell?
Yeah, Isaac, first of all, great to be on with you. And, obviously you can't replace Sam Howell. You can fill that void as much as you want, but it's going to take a couple guys to step up and really support the two young guys. So first of all, it always starts up front. As a former offensive lineman, I'm going to tell you it's going to be the five guys who start up front. I'm biased, but it really does. It's going to take the five guys up front to really make holes for running lanes. It's going to take the five guys really anchoring together and make a clean pocket protection, allowing either Drake or Jacolby or Connor Harrell or whoever it is back there to make smart decisions and get rid of the ball or run with the ball, whatever the case may be. But it's not one guy. It's not one guy. It's a team. It's 11 guys doing their job, doing what they're responsible for, and just making sure that we're successful, slowly and methodically moving the ball down the field.
And so, yeah, Brian, you well know this as you referenced somebody who is an offensive lineman, even though the majority of people who have never played the game think it really is just like about how well the quarterback plays or doesn't play. Mm-hmm. It really is about that entire unit. And so if one person misses an assignment or misses the snap call or whatever it may be, how does that really cause a play to fall apart?
Yeah, again, just like you said, one guy, especially on the offense side of the ball, one guy's mistake, one missed block, it ends the play right there. That's why on the offense side of the ball, they do put the smarter guys on the field to be able to execute. Again, I'm biased, right? You got to be able to execute. You got to be able to be focused, laser focused every single play. You got to be able to work in unison with your line mates. And again, we're talking about the guys up front. But again, the quarterback's got to look and see what's going on the back end of the defense. The receivers got to look and see who's coming up off the edge, right? If they got to adjust their routes. Yeah. Running backs, if they got to change from, if they're going to leak out of the backfield, maybe they got to stay in now and chip or help and pick a linebacker off. So again, it's not like playing defense where you can pin your hat back and ears back and just go after somebody. You really got to be paying attention. And again, on the offense side of the ball, one mental mistake, one little breakdown can cause a turnover, a loss of yardage, a significant blow up, an injury. So that's why it's so imperative that you got to be dialed in every single play. And, it's about 75, 80 snaps per game for the offense. And so you got to be dialed in every single play.
Man. Yeah, absolutely. And so you firsthand know the importance of protecting a quarterback's blind side, having done so for the likes of Darian Durant. How all the more important is that with one of these three young guys, whoever wins the job, who might not have the awareness of a Sam Howell or somebody quite yet in their development?
You are so, Isaac, that's a great question. I can tell you, playing left tackle And I was so blessed to play for a guy with Darian. Darren was such a gamer. His skill set was incredible. His leadership was a quiet kind of leadership. He wasn't a big rah-rah, smashing helmets in the locker room kind of guy. He just went out, did his work, and really was a great player. But so was my best friend, Matt Baker, who also was our quarterback in 2005. He was a great leader, and Matt was a little bit more outspoken. But then also Joe Daly. I mean, Joe is a great guy too. But when you're playing left tackle, right, you're protecting the guy's blind side, and he's really put his trust in you to not have any of those mental breakdowns, making sure you're getting off on the snap faster than the defensive side of the ball. And so you have that extra pressure on yourself where this guy is really relying and putting his health in your hands. And so that's really, I mean, when another human being is putting his health and wellness in your hands, I mean, that's an extra kind of burden. Whereas let's just say a center or a right guard, right? Those two positions and also a right tackle, more than likely the quarterback can see one of those defensive linemen coming, can make an adjustment, spin out of it, run around the guy. Well, behind them, they don't have eyes in the back of their head. And unless they can do a really good job of feeling somebody coming behind them and feeling that pressure, it's more than likely. We've seen all the big hits on TV, whether it's, Sunday NFL football or, the late night shows on college football. It can put people down pretty hard. And so, again, it's that extra pressure of knowing that you have to do your assignment, execute it to the best of your ability, and you can't have a bad day. When you're playing left tackle, there are no bad days. There are no mistakes. There are no false starts. There are no penalties. And you got to play a clean game and a perfect game. So the short and keep adding to that. So that just means our man Asim Richards is got to step up, and I really do think Asim will step up. He is now going to be a 3-year starter, if I believe, and it's time. It's time for him to be an all-conference kind of player. He's got the body, he's got the skill set. I love Jack McNell. I think Jack McNell is one of the best offseason hires. I love his toughness. I love his grit. I love that he's a fellow Northeastern guy. And I think he's just going to establish that kind of toughness that maybe we haven't had the last 2 to 3 years on the offensive line. And I think he's going to put that, he's going to administer and infuse that toughness and simplify some things and technique in our offensive line and just let the guys go to work and have fun.
Man, and that's encouraging because I know so many people listening and watching are thinking, man, I thought we were going to have this tremendous offensive line last year. All these things. And there were injuries and everything else. But I think the big question is these first 2 years of Coach Brown's second tenure, we had this upward trajectory. And then last year, things just didn't pan out the way that hopes were. And so then, therefore, there are quite a few question marks heading into this fall. Is that a thing where the coaching staff already from spring workouts and what's gone on so far this fall already has some answers to that? Or do you think they're going to learn those answers as fall camp goes on?
Oh, boy, you learn a lot of stuff in the fall camp. I mean, you really do. I mean, spring ball is so important for your incoming enrollees in January, your freshmen, sophomores, but your juniors and seniors, you know what you have. Yeah. That spring ball is so vital for the young kids. So can you answer some questions in spring practice? Maybe. I think it's really just for the brand new faces. Again, just like I was saying with Coach McNell, maybe the Zach Rices of the world. I love Zach Rice. I think Zach Rice is going to be a great player. He's got a great body type for the offensive line. He's nasty. He loves to hit after the whistle, which is something I love. My mother didn't like it so much, but I liked it. One of the kids I love that I'm going to love for you to follow and love for your listeners to follow also is Noah Taylor, the transfer from UVA.
Yes.
He is so fast and explosive off the line of scrimmage. I love watching him. I think he can be a double-digit sack guy for us this year, so I'm really excited about him. I'll save some of my other teasers of who I'm excited about for you later in the show. But, those are just two brand new faces that we saw this spring. So spring is for new faces and new guys and new coaches, right? Fall camp is for the entire team's growth and to really settle who's going to play, right? Spring ball can be cutesy stuff and, find out some stuff and, maybe shake the tree a little bit. Fall camp is going to say, okay, who are the men and who's going to play? And then who are the guys who can maybe help us a little bit? And then who are the guys who need to wait until 23 to play?
Speaking of fall camp, do you expect that Coach Brown, between Drake and Jacolby and Connor, do you expect him to name a starter at either sometime during camp or coming out of camp? Do you think he'll cut it down to one guy, maybe go with a two-headed quarterback? What are your expectations, Brian?
Well, one of the best things I love about Coach Brown is that you don't know what Coach Brown's going to do. So it's always the great thing about Coach Brown, and that's why I love Coach Brown so much. Is when you got a Hall of Famer and you got a national championship winning head coach who's been around the game for so long, I think he's going to keep all of us guessing, which is going to be really exciting. And that's a great reason. That's a great reason, and I feel so lucky that I don't have to make any of those decisions. So, here's a great thing I can tell you, Isaac, is that this staff has done an exceptional job recruiting the quarterback position, right? I mean, you got Drake, you got Jacolby, you got Connor Harrell, you got Jefferson Boaz. They got some kids waiting in the wings we can't talk about because they're not on campus. But seriously, and it's just, there's some programs who would die just to have one kid. That's and right. we have a handful of kids. So that's something that I can tell you. I'm really as a former letterman now. I'm not speaking as a Rams Club boy. I'm telling you, as a former player of the program, my ball that. As a former player, I'm so proud of Coach Brown and the staff and all they've done to get this program. 2 years ago, we're fighting our butts off against a great Texas A&M team in the Orange Bowl. If we had all our guys, the outcome could have been different. Last year, obviously, we didn't have the year none of us wanted. And then this year, I think we had some young guys who played a lot of minutes for us. And they realized, college football is not high school. And, you got to show up every Saturday and you got to play. And, the other guys across from you, those guys also were All-Americans and All-State and All-Conference. And they're on scholarship too. And so it's going to be really, really exciting to see how we progress throughout this year. I love what Coach Brown has done, scheduling the FAMU game with week 0. Yep. He's honoring the HBCUs too in that week 0 game. That just shows the kind of first class that Coach Brown has and the staff has, and Bubba Cunningham and Chancellor Guskowitz, all first class kind of men. And it also does a great thing for our guys to be able to get ready to go to a very tough environment up in Boone that all Carolina fans better get ready for, that are going to. I know myself and my wife and some friends, we're going up there for the game, and I can't wait. And it's going to be a great, great environment. So,
man. And so you've started getting into that a little bit. And so my last question for you about this year's team is, given that first 2 years trajectory, given how things unfolded last year, what do you think are reasonable expectations for the 22 Tar Heels?
Well, again, I'm going to channel my Coach Brown, but I also just will channel kind of how I look at life. If you're a Carolina football fan and you're a Carolina fan in general, why should we expect not to win every single game? And the reason being is I don't see any team on our schedule that is significantly better than we are. I don't see a Georgia. I don't see an Alabama. And so therefore, we shouldn't, in this program, in the state that we have this program in, we should never go into a schedule. We should never go into a game thinking, well, I don't think the outcome's not going to be good this weekend. So let's just look forward to the next weekend. And I totally understand your schedule. I understand your question, but the way that myself and my teammates would look at our, the schedule, and we would get it back in the early 2000s would be, we're going to win every game, right? Because if you start going down the roster and if you start looking down the schedule and say, well, I think we can get this one, or maybe we can get this one, you start having those negative thoughts in your head, right? So it's just like anything in life, right? We're going to take this week by week and we're going to win every single game. And so I think what Coach Brown has done is he said, well, hell, when the schedule comes out, we're going to win every single game because we have a positive mindset with this program. We have great kids. That's the kind of mindset we're going to recruit. And so we're not going to talk about maybes, would-haves, should-haves. We're going to go out and we're going to compete our butts off every single weekend.
Boy, I love that so much. What an encouraging and positive way to look at things, and just going that week to week, just like the players. Yep. All of you listening, checking in, let's take that same approach and just track right along with Coach Brown and this team and everything they're doing. Thanks so much for that wisdom and thoughtfulness from inside the mind of a player, Brian. Yep. Speaking of which, you just talked about taking it back to the early 2000s, and that's what we're going to do in just a minute as we talk to Brian about his time playing as a Tar Heel. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to help you reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and ultimately hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, we are here today on Locked On Tar Heels, joined by Brian Chacos, North Carolina football player, and now working for the Rams Club. And what we want to do is just go back and talk about Brian's time playing at Carolina. And so, Brian, you mentioned earlier coming out of the Northeast. And so take us back to high school. We've talked about you as an offensive lineman. You were a tight end, my friend. So let's unpack all of that.
I was. Well, that would be unpacking about 60 pounds ago. That'd be a lot. Isaac, that'd be a lot of unpacking. That was a lot of meals at Sutton's with my man Don Penny and IP3s and Angelo and those guys there who helped me get to be an offensive lineman. So now I can tell you, playing football at the University of North Carolina is one of the greatest things that's happened to me in my life. It's allowed me to get a great education, B, make incredible friendships that have lasted me a lifetime. And most important, it's allowed me to, on a blind date my sophomore year, meet my wife, who we have an incredible marriage, which I feel very blessed about. We have 2 unbelievable kids, which are obviously the product of her, not so much me. And so all of that is due from being able to come on scholarship to play at the University of North Carolina. I can tell you, coming out of a small town in Connecticut, I was a product. My dad, Andy, played for Coach Dooley from 71 to 75. So I've been coming to Letterman's weekends since the 2nd grade. I joke with Natron Means that his Chargers jersey, his number 20 navy blue San Diego Chargers Lightning Bolts jersey, was the first NFL jerseys I ever had as a child, which he wasn't so happy when I told him that because it aged him quite a bit. So he didn't appreciate that so much. He did appreciate that I bought his jersey, which he did like. I think he got some of the royalties from the jersey, obviously. And then, Drake Maye, who I've obviously the utmost respect. He's a legendary on the Mount Rushmore Carolina football. Right. I remember sitting with my dad after the Clemson game in the Moorhead Planetarium parking lot after Dre had 3 picks, and listening to Woody Durham, who I loved Woody to death. Rest in peace, Woody. Listening to Woody interview Dre about that game. And those are just 2 quick kind of, memories and things and how I got to Carolina and stuff like that. But, as a kid coming out of Connecticut, my 5 schools that it came down to was obviously University of North Carolina, University of Arizona, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Wisconsin. So those are kind of my 5 schools, kind of all scattered over the United States. My mom really wanted me to go to the University of Arizona. She loves vacationing in Scottsdale and loved the coach there at the time, who was Dick Tomei. And They had a great recruiter on staff who did a great job recruiting me. And, he'd call the house and spend 5 minutes talking to me and then 35 minutes talking to my mom. And so they really kind of know how to work the household back there. And so, sorry, Mom, you didn't get your wish. I went to UNC instead of Arizona, but it's been an unbelievable ride. And then now, obviously, being back here and working in a different capacity, and obviously raising money now for football and our 27 other sports has really just been a blessing. It's been awesome living in Chapel Hill, being a husband, raising kids here. I could never have imagined it would work out this way.
Boy, man, what a neat story, and what a litany of schools you had to choose from. What ultimately helped you finalize that decision to return to your dad's?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you just answered it right there. When I looked at, I'm a Northeast Catholic kid, so having the opportunity to go play at Notre Dame was something that was really something of passion to me. But staying in the cold, South Bend is very dreary. I do like to have a good time, so their social scene wasn't necessarily something that was up my alley. So that wasn't necessarily going to work out for me. Barry Alvarez, the Hall of Famer Barry Alvarez for Wisconsin, came to my high school and offered me a scholarship. And having to turn down Barry Alvarez when he's sitting across from you was a very awkward kind of moment for me. But would it have been great to play at Wisconsin in front of that crowd every Saturday? Absolutely. But again, kind of cold weather, freezing in Madison, Wisconsin. I just didn't know if I was going to be willing to do that for 4 or 5 years. So again, that was kind of more of a geographic decision more than anything. Tennessee at the time, and you'll love this, Tennessee at the time was only graduating about 28% of their football players. So my mom took the scholarship letter, and I'll never forget it. I was sitting at the kitchen table, and the scholarship letter came in, and I remember her reading it. She had gotten information of such the low graduation rate at the time, and her tearing up the letter in front of me and saying that Tennessee was not going to be an option. So that obviously went out the window. So that left me with Arizona and UNC. And then when I really got down to thinking of it, how many father-sons really get the opportunity to be able to play at the same school and kind of have that bond that'll be forever, right? And so, I can name a couple of father-sons that have played at Carolina. You got the Chapman family, the Pascal family, the Dorn family. I'm sure I'm missing a few. Yep, exactly. Yep, the Mays family. Yep. And so, that's a very, very special and unique bond that'll never be broken. So my dad and I, text. I mean, when training camp gets started, which it obviously has already, as we're talking here on Monday, it's one of those things like our hearts are beating, our blood flow is talking. We trade training camp stories. We're so glad we're not partaking in training camp anymore because we're too old and brittle to be doing that anymore. But it's it's a bond that we'll have forever as a father and son, and it's because of Carolina football.
If you could pick out just a moment or two of your actual on-field performance that you're most proud of, what would it be?
Oh, it's so easy to pick out. I'll give you the first one is obviously the 2004 Miami game, right? People like to talk about that game ad nauseum, and I'm sorry, Carolina fans, that still is the greatest Carolina football win. It's not even negotiable because it was against the number 4 Miami team who, still to be debated. They could have been ranked number 1 in the country at that point in the year. They had just throttled NC State on a Thursday night before they came to Kenan Stadium. Devin Hester, Frank Gore, Brock Berlin, Greg Olson. I mean, you just go down the line, Willie Williams. I mean, it was just, the amount of talent that was on that 2004 roster was just sick. And it really just kind of talks about how sometimes, football is a real easy game, but it's played by complicated people. And so, I think what we really just did for that game in 2004 is we simplified the playbook. And we really just laid it out on the line, right? They were more physical than we were, faster, more talented. I mean, name anything, they were better than we were. It wasn't even close. But it was just on that night, we played harder, we played tougher, We got in their face. We just were more aggressive, and we wanted more. And I think it's kind of a good life lesson how, even though you can feel like the underdog, or you can feel like the person who shouldn't be in the room or shouldn't be in the situation that you're in, you can overcome things. And that night is such a great lesson for me. It's a great lesson I've talked to my kids about. I've talked to young people, interns, or young people that come to me for career advice. That's such a great moment that I can always point back to and say, hey, look, we had no business being on the field with those guys. We came out, punched them in the face. They had no idea what to do, how to respond. And we faced adversity late in the game because they made a late push in the game. We kept our composure. We ended up winning the game and beating the number 4 team in the country right here in Keenan. And it was an awesome, awesome game. I'll tell you, I went against a guy named Baraka Atkins. I couldn't even tell you, Isaac, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast, but I can tell you everything about Baraka Atkins in 2004, right? He was right-handed. He only really had 2 moves. He liked to do a club rip on pass rush, or he was just a speed bend, and he would turn his shoulder to try and get around you. Those are his only 2 pass rush moves, okay? He was easy to reach block, but if you try to get an inside reach, he was really hard. He was a big, nasty guy. He was about 6'5", 285. I think he was from Coral Gables, Florida, that area. He was just a nasty, nasty dude. But it was fun to go against him for 60 minutes in Keenan. So again, that was the first example. The second example, 2005, we're playing over in Carter Finley. Okay. Again, NC State had probably the best defense in the ACC that year. They had Mario Williams, they had Manny Lawson, they had Tank Tyler, they had Stephen Tulloch, they had AJ Davis, they had DeMario Presley. They had a bunch of just really nasty dudes on defense. And, we went over to Carter Finley. It was one of those things we had to warm up with our helmets on because they're throwing AAA batteries at us when we're warming up, and you could hear the little dinks on your helmet because of the battery. And it was just one of those things. They were clearly the better team on paper. Chuck Amato and John Bunning got in a shoving match before the game. The intensity and the rivalry really ran deep. Both schools still hate each other. I hate NC State. I really do. I hate NC State. And it's just one of those things that we just outplayed them. We hit them in the mouth. We ran the football. We made some great plays. And it's just one of those things. I loved going against Mario Williams. I loved playing against Manny Lawson. Maybe had a little unsportsmanlike penalty here and there in the game, but it's going to happen when you play NC State. So, it's one of those things that those are 2 probably the biggest and greatest memories I have as a player that easily stick out in my head, and would do anything to play in those 2 kind of games again.
Wow, man. Brian, thank you for taking us inside your head and inside your helmet for those memories. That's just, it's good to relive those alongside somebody who was on the field for it. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Now, we want to move ahead to looking at what Brian's doing today, the office he's sitting in, working for the Rams Club. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. There's also reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering info. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they got you covered. So head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Our attention to talking with Brian about his role. He's circumnavigated the globe, found his way back to Chapel Hill, where he works for the Rams Club as Major Gifts Director. And so, Brian, just for those who don't know, just in general, what the Rams Club is, could you explain that?
Sure. So the Rams Club is an organization that we help fund the athletics department. We help support the 20 varsity sports. And we do that by supporting the annual fund, operating endowments, facilities, and special projects that all of those sports need, have, wants. And we do that by soliciting private donations and supporting our over 18,000 members. We have had a ton of success. We have been very blessed to have such great donors, fans, people who love Carolina athletics. We could not be as successful as we are on the field without our Rams Club members. And it has truly been a blessing to be able to work here at the Rams Club. And I will tell you, I know I can speak on behalf of our coaches, our former student athletes, our current student athletes, to be able to thank our Rams Club members who are so generous to us, not only with their time, purchasing tickets, purchasing parking, coming to our hospitality areas before, after games, but also giving financially to make sure that we can compete at a championship level every single year to make them proud to be Tar Heels.
Man, that's so fun. People just look at fundraising, and you unpack it and you start to think of the ramifications and and everything it affects. And man, it's just so neat. And so, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, you've been there working for the Rams Club over a decade now. And what is it that keeps you there? What is your job? What do you love about it?
Well, I love it because it's not even a job. I love it because it's not even work. I love my coworkers. I love the people that I work with, for. I love working with our coaches. I love being able to work closely with the football program. I know you're going to maybe share a little bit later where I work closely with the women's basketball program. And it's really just about relationships more than anything. So yes, fundraising is what we do, but really it's about relationships. It's about building on those relationships. It's helping our student athletes be successful. It's making sure those teams can compete at a high level. But really it's making sure that a program that has given me so much, you can afford that to the next person who was in your shoes. And so that's kind of the fun thing where, again, it's not even work for me. I love showing up. Again, I love the people that I work with. And so it's just been a blast.
Boy, that's so good. And you kind of just referenced this a second ago, but one of the neat things about your family, as we've talked about already, is that you are a multi-generational Tar Heel family. And your parents still active and going and doing things. And from some conversations we've had, they wanted to get involved as well. And so would you share with us some of that story?
Yeah. So, my mom and dad have been very blessed with being successful in my dad's post-Carolina life. And so they have been involved with the Rams Club for a very long time. Have been very generous in giving back to the Rams Club, making it a priority to help pave the way for the next young person to be able to come and live out their dreams, competing in a Carolina uniform. And so that's been awesome. It's been something that I feel very blessed as a family that we've been able to do for somebody else. And my parents have been great. My wife and I, we've been giving to the Rams Club too for 20 years. And it's something that's been just really important to our family to, again, be able to pay that back. But something, and I think something that we want to share is 2.5 years ago, we've always been a very football donor-focused family. My parents, my wife, and I as well. And as soon as COVID started, we had a family conversation with my parents and stuff like that. And we also want to start looking at some of the other sports, maybe branching and also supporting a different sport besides football. So continuing to support football, but also additionally helping another sport. And my mom jumps on goheels.com and she gets on and reading some of our Born and Bred magazines through the Rams Club and starts reading a bunch of articles about Courtney Banghart, our women's basketball coach, who I dearly love, consider a very good friend, and have just really, really have fallen in love with her and the program and just all the things they're about and they mean and the way they compete. And so my parents have become very big women's basketball supporters. My wife and I are very big supporters. My 2 kids are as well, from anything from floor seat tickets. We made 17 of 18 home basketball games for them in Carmichael last year. My dad and I went to an away game at UVA last year. We went to the ACC tournament in Greensboro. We went to see them play in the Sweet 16 game against South Carolina. I mean, we are all in, man. We are dialed in with basketball. We love it. So we literally joke that we are probably the biggest, literally and figuratively, Carolina women's basketball fans. And we just love it, again, because they're great human beings. They represent the university in a first-class way. Coach Banghart, if you want to talk about, what a servant leader is, that's her in the definition of what that is. And so she's really easy to get behind and support. And so when you're looking for a program to get behind, it's a no-brainer and one to really, really support. And so I'm proud of Coach. I'm proud of those young ladies, what they represent. And so in doing that, and hopefully maybe you'll be able to post a picture later on the podcast, is for the second year in a row, my parents have hosted a preseason dinner at our house. And so last night we had the entire team over. My parents are, grilling out, they're baking all sorts of food and desserts and stuff like that. And so, funny enough, a thunderstorm rolls in and some of the young ladies still want to do s'mores, right? So my parents have the s'more kit they're doing, and my dad goes out and lights a fire. It's raining. And there's a great picture I sent you of Tioni Key, who's going to be a great player for us, coming off an ACL tear. But she's got a great smile, and she's out there with my dad, and they're making s'mores. During the summertime, it's like 94 degrees out, but a rainstorm is happening. And again, it just kind of shows that relationship that Carolina folks have, and just how special these young people on campus are, and how they're more than just athletes. They're
Yes.
Great young people, and I think sometimes we need to remember that. It's not just a student athlete. It's not just someone who's competing and that's it. They are going through the same kind of things that we all are. And so it's been awesome to get to know them and be a part of their life.
Gosh, that's so good. Yes. If you're watching, you have already seen the picture, because I will have posted it while Brian is talking about them both. Really neat pictures. And Brian, I'm so grateful for that reminder of the humanity that is in all of us. And that is why we have this show. That is why we have these conversations. It's not just about giving money or cheering at sporting events. It is, how do we as humans connect to one another, spur each other on, and encourage each other? And so I'm just so grateful to you for reminding us all of that.
It's obviously been an awesome, awesome time being with you, Isaac.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Brian Chacos, he is a Tar Heel, ladies and gentlemen. Well, friends, that is it for today's episode of Locked on Tar Heels. My sincere thanks to Brian for joining us. What a great conversation. Hopefully you got to learn a whole bunch about a whole bunch of things surrounding Carolina athletics. Coming up this week, tomorrow's show is our stats review that we continue. We're looking at rebounding from last year and what it'll mean for this year. On Wednesday, Coach Pat Kilby and I look at the man Kaleb Love. Really appreciate you making Locked on Tar Heels your first listen or watch today and every day. Please go subscribe if you haven't already to the show. It's quick and easy. And don't forget to smash that like button. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked on Heels or me at Isaac Schade. Get more on the ACC right now by making Locked on ACC your second listen today. Host Candace Cooper and the local experts of Locked On take you around the conference in 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Really appreciate so much that you decided to spend part of your Monday hanging out with me and with Brian talking about Carolina athletics. We want to remind you, if you didn't know it already, that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace!